Turn to the Stars. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm going to be covering the new moon in Taurus that's occurring today, May 11th, 2021, and it's occurring at exactly 2:58 p.m. This afternoon, and I'm in Summerfield, Florida, Eastern Daytime. So I'm going to be talking about that, and I'm also going to be talking about the total lunar eclipse that's occurring on May 26th in the sign of Sagittarius. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. And so today is the new moon, and a new moon creates a new theme, and it holds a promise of something that is about to unfold in your life, something that's starting new, something that is about to unfold over the course of the next month. And a full moon always brings things to fruition. So I'm going to start out talking about that new moon in Taurus, and as I said, it's occurring today, May 11th at 2:58 p.m. Eastern Daytime. I'm in Summerfield, Florida, and the beautiful Villages, and it was raining today, so I'm recording inside. So Mother Nature said, time to go inside, so that's what we're doing today. So the new moon is occurring at exactly 21 degrees in the sign of Taurus. And Taurus is a sign that reminds us about the beautiful earth around us, about the materials and the things that we are so lucky to have, the objects, it's our money, it rules over our money, and it rules over beautiful things and earth and materials. And it's also, though, about our self-worth and what we value about ourselves. And primarily, prosperity, I believe very truly that prosperity comes from within. And it's not about money. It's not about those things. I always say my God is not money. My God is my God. And that's where a true sense of prosperity comes from. So this Taurus new moon is actually having, it already had a difficult conversation with Saturn in Aquarius. So we're passing that, and what that brings up is that there's, the message I'm getting with that is that the things that we feel that have been stuck, that we have not been able to leave behind or move beyond, these things are behind us now, because we've already experienced this first square with this Taurus energy with Saturn, and the planet Uranus is right beside this new moon, and so it's already breaking things up, changing things. We've had many surprises and many things that, aha moments. That's how I describe Uranus's energy. And it makes me think about, when I think about Uranus's energy, I think about a lightning bolt that suddenly hits something, and then suddenly we go, wow, this is really different. I would have never thought about this before. And one thing I know that lightning does is it brings people together, because when lightning strikes, it's shocking. And there can be damage, there can be pain, there can be things that are associated with that. So, I thought about this yesterday. Uranus is also like the energy that's mainly associated with Uranus is something that breaks things apart. So if you think of a jackhammer that you see, somebody working on the road is using a jackhammer to break up old road, that's pretty much what Uranus does. And it wakes us up to something different than what we saw before. It changes the form of things. And it can be quite surprising at times as well. So with this new moon, we have Uranus right beside it. We have Venus there also in Gemini, very close by. And there's what I would call a loaded 9th house of energy here, meaning that there's a lot of truth that is coming to light right now. And that's what this new moon promises, truth. It promises that we're going to be more aware of different ways of looking at things. This is a great time for research, a great time for looking beyond the horizons. This is a great time for talking to other people that can share their belief systems with us and us with them. So it's mainly learning about each other. And so this new moon actually is, it's forming a beautiful trine to the what's on the horizon right now, which is Virgo. And so there's this really nice earthly quality, which is very abundant, that is surrounding us. And the one thing that I see happening here is Mars is in a perfect square with Chiron. So that indicates that, Mars is about our movement, our actions, our desires. And in Cancer, it tells us a tale about family, about nurturance, about caregiving. And that is something that's very active in this world. But there's also a lot of pain associated with this Mars square Chiron. It's pressurized. This is a cardinal square. Squares are challenging. It means that there's some things that are going to delay us, that are coming from relationships that have not been healed. And so we need to use kid gloves around this energy in our personal relationships. And this is a universal chart I'm looking at, meaning this is energy that is affecting the whole world. So you might find that, I might make references during this recording to certain signs. For instance, this new moon in Taurus would be very influential for anybody with Taurus energy. Anybody with planets close to 21 degrees of any sign is going to feel the effects and the influences of this new moon. Each day, as we move forward toward the end of the month with the full moon and that total lunar eclipse comes, is a theme that began on this new moon. Every day builds on that story. So you kind of think about painting a picture. You start in one spot and then you slowly paint the picture of whatever it is you're looking at. And so that's what a new moon does, because the sun and the moon are close by each other. They are exactly the same degrees on any new moon and on a solar eclipse. So this new moon is actually painting a picture, opening up a door, so to speak, for eclipse season. So it's very, very important. This is a critical time, very important time. This theme that begins to unfold is going to be fully under the microscope, fully lit up by the time the full moon lunar eclipse comes. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit more. There's a Sabian symbol, meaning Sabian symbols are something that was created years ago by Edgar Cayce. He sat with a psychic, and for each degrees of every zodiac sign, she channeled a message that was associated with that degrees. And the degrees of this new moon is 21 degrees Taurus. So the Sabian symbol that's associated with this new moon is a game of cricket. So as I'm reading this to you, you might envision what this, in your mind's eye, what this looks like, what this feels like to you, because we're all affected by these moon phases. And new moons are really important. We call it a cosmic key in astrology because it presents us with a key to understanding this new theme, this new cycle that's beginning. So this symbol, which is a game of cricket, shows playing the game of life by the rules. Like the game of cricket, there are rules and guidelines to go by that need to be respected and observed. And this new moon is in the 9th house, which has to do with the law. Politics also has to do with religion and beliefs and higher education. So keep these things in mind as I'm reading you about the Sabian symbol. So it is not so much the game that is important, but how it is played. Cricket is very much a gentleman's game, and it is usually played by people who come together from all around in order to side with those they choose to play the game with. You will find that integrity is vital, and your honesty will give you rewards. Even if there is some initial sacrifice, careful teamwork is needed to stop things getting through the gaps. Everyone must, to some extent, keep on their toes, playing by the rules, stiff upper lip responses, seeing through the illusions of what constitutes polite society, sportsmanship, courtesy, umpires' decisions, opposing teams. And the caution with this symbol is difficulty showing one's true feelings and emotions, being caught out, situations that are boring and long-winded, silly rules that don't make sense, prudish. So those are the cautions with this new moon and the Sabian symbol that's associated with it. And the other thing that is happening is Jupiter is at 29 degrees today of Aquarius. So it's at what we call a critical degrees, and it's in the 6th house of work. It's in the sign of Aquarius, which tells, which brings up the topic of humanity, of friends, community, and it squares Mercury in this chart. So it actually squares Venus very strongly. So that's a caution to all that there's, a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry that's going on right now about health, because Jupiter's in the 6th house of this chart, and what's true and what's not true. And today on Facebook I made a post because 2 really dear friends of mine I found out yesterday have COVID, and they're young and they're doing really well. But I posted something on Facebook today because this has been coming up for the last week. Everybody has the right to follow their heart, to follow what they feel from their inner guidance is best for them. And so, I put out a post on Facebook today that everybody be well and that everybody be safe, because, some people are choosing not to take the shot and some people are choosing to take the shot, and that is their decision. We're in the United States of America, so we have that freedom of choice. So I said a prayer for everybody, not just for one side or the other. I said a prayer for everybody because I really felt that people, should have that right, and nobody should attack anybody about that or judge them. So, but politically, this Jupiter squaring Venus is telling us that there are some real concerns and there are some real worries, and that people in relationships are facing some challenges because they're stating their truth. So, and people that are not stating their truth, they might be thinking it anyway. So that's something that's happening, and Jupiter's about to move into the sign of Pisces. That's a big shift that's coming up, and that's in the next couple of days. So I'll be talking more about that in future shows. But on this new moon, we do have Venus in a nice conversation with Pluto. So that's really nice, because when Venus is about relationships, it's the glue that binds us together. It's love, it's security, it's beautiful things. And so there's this beauty that's showing up for people in all parts of the world. Whether your culture, whether your belief is this, or your culture is that, or your religion is this, this is a time where you're going to see some huge transformation. And children, and your voices mean a lot. This is a time on earth where our ability to express our heart, to express our creativity, we're going through a beautiful, beautiful transition here with Venus trining Pluto. Whenever I see that in a birth chart, I know that person is going to meet in this lifetime the love of their life, and it's going to be extremely transformative. That's one of the signatures that indicates that. But the other things that are happening here is that I talked about Mars already. So, I'm going to also talk a little bit before I move on to the lunar eclipse about the retrogrades that are beginning to happen right now. And We have Pluto already retrograde, and before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about what retrogrades mean, because you know, the other morning I was actually channeling some information about retrogrades. Whenever that happens, I have to write it down right away because it comes and it goes really fast. So I wrote this about retrogrades. Retrogrades are when, from our perception on Earth, when a planet appears to be moving backwards. And it's not really moving backwards, it's just our view of that planet. It changes, and so it appears to be going backward in time. So the energy, though, actually does take us back over an area of experience that we've already had. And so it's really nice to understand when that's going to happen, when that begins, that foreshadow before the retrograde. And then the retrograde begins. And when the retrograde begins, it takes us back over area we've already traveled because there's something more to know. And, you know, I assimilate that, or I parallel that with going to a doctor. And you get in your car, you head to the doctor, and you have that experience. Then when you get to the doctor looks at you and says, okay, what's going on? So you tell him what's going on, or her. And then you know, they discuss with you whatever that problem is, and then they oftentimes write your prescription, or they give you vitamins, something to treat that problem. So a retrograde is like a prescription. It gives us the opportunity to fix something, to go back over something, to reassociate ourselves with something we may not have realized was really important. And so a retrograde brings the means to a better future, because it's information, or whatever it is with that planet, whatever the energy is associated with that planet, is what we're going to be going back over. So for instance, right now, Pluto is retrograde, and that started on April 28th. So, and Pluto is in Capricorn, and it's going to go from 26 degrees of Capricorn back to 24 degrees of Capricorn. And so that is between April 28th and October 7th. So whatever occurred, and if you think about this and just kind of do a little review in your mind, since January 4th of this year, whatever your experiences were, you know, and it's nice to know where Pluto is transiting in your birth chart and what that looks like, because that tells us a lot about where in your life you're going through this transformation, or this, you know, huge change, or realization that you need to let something go, that there's something better that is in front of you. But so many times we hang on to things, and Pluto's job, Pluto's energy is to help us to let go. And you know, so whatever happened in your life between January 4th and April 28th is what you're going to be reviewing between April 28th and October 7th. So that's Pluto's retrograde. Capricorn is the energy of business, career, structures, big business, big companies. It's government and things that control. Capricorn is a controlling type of sign, and so it is about business, but it's also about learning. So when we let go of what we were holding on to, it's a huge learning experience, and we look at things from a different perspective. So the Pluto in Capricorn retrograde is going to be sort of like a dusting and a cleaning, and revisitation of those areas of your life. And if you're interested in finding out more about where that Pluto transit is happening in your life and what that looks like, you can contact me at Andrea@turntothestars.com. But to go on, though, about those retrogrades, the next retrograde that we have coming up, I think Saturn. Saturn actually goes retrograde on May 23rd. And so, and Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius. And Saturn is about responsibility, it's hard work, it's like, you know, and when I teach astrology, one of the words we use to describe Saturn is Lord of Karma. It's also, though, representative of the hard work we've done and the abilities that we've gained through all that hard work and that discipline. So in the sign of Aquarius, our work right now and where we're developing abilities is in the sign of Aquarius, which means with our friends, with our communities, with humanity, our goals and our objectives. There's a lot of work that's going on right now in those areas, and abilities that are being developed that we didn't even know we had. So, you know, Saturn is a learning planet. So Saturn in Aquarius is going to go retrograde May 23rd at 13 degrees of Aquarius, and it's going to go retrograde until October 11th, and it's going to go all the way back to 6 degrees. So what those changes are that happen in your life that are in reference to your friends, your community, your goals, your objectives, whether it be something that you're doing in your community, that you're working on and you're developing, the retrograde is the time to put all those ideas, go back, look at them, and plan to, you know, make them the best you can be. And so there's this structure and there's this support from Saturn, which brings discipline, it brings focus and concentration. So the retrograde between May 23rd and October 11th is going to be going back, taking us back over experiences we had between February 14th, Valentine's Day, and May 23rd. So if you can think in your mind back over the experiences that you had that were related to learning and development and discipline and those abilities that you realized were really important at that time, you're going to get to go back over it again between May 23rd and October 11th, and you get the medicine. You get Saturn's medicine at that time. So it's like a shot in the arm of vitamin, you know, multivitamin. So that's how I think about retrogrades, because retro means revisit, review, reorganize, all of those things. So retro means go back. So we're going back and with good purpose. And, you know, I think about astrology as God's gift to us. It's His map. You know, we all talk about, you know, when something goes wrong in our life and we go, God, why won't you help me? Why don't you help me now? And sometimes we just got to go into a really quiet place to hear Him. And it could be through the tiniest little things that those messages are given to us. And sometimes it doesn't happen right away. And you're just meant to sit in silence for a while and reflect. And astrology, though, is one thing that we can look at that gives us that ability to understand God's timing. Because when you look at a transit to a birth chart, or you look at a progression to a birth chart, you can see those answers. We never can see what your choices will be, but we can explain, an astrologer can explain what, how, where, and the timing of events exactly day by day or year by year, whatever, you know, whatever it is that you're looking at. So astrology is actually God's timing. That's the way I look at it. So the next planet that we're going to talk about here that's going to go retrograde is Mercury. And that's going to happen on May 29th. And Mercury is the planet that rules over thinking, communication, decision making. It's how we, you know, it rules the way we communicate with each other. And Mercury's in the sign of Gemini. And Gemini is the intellectual sign. It is the free-spirited sign. It's the information gatherer. It's the one that's ruled by Hermes. And so there's that quicksilver type of energy influence. Messages come real fast. A lot of times Geminis are news reporters or writers or they're really great salespeople because they like to talk to people. They're very social. So Mercury in Gemini is, there's going to be a lot of talk, a lot of conversation. And so wherever that retrograde is happening in your birth chart by a transit is going to tell you what you're going to be reviewing. But from a universal standpoint, it's going to go from 24 degrees on May 29th of Gemini back to 16 degrees. And that lasts from May 29th through June 22nd. And so what you're going to be reviewing is whatever it is you're thinking about, talking about, maybe researching or wanting more information on between May 14th and May 29th. So if you really want to work with the natural flow of energy, this is a time to slow down. It's a time to reflect. Think about those things that you want to make decisions on, but don't make those decisions just yet. You can, but you're going to be going back over it again if you make those decisions. And you might expect delays if you're going to travel. Allow extra time. Be very careful driving because Mercury rules over short travel. And so mechanical things that, if you have something wrong with your car, this is the time to go look at it and fix it. If your computer's broken, this is a time to go look at it and figure out what's going on, revisit it, review it. This is a time where you're going to find answers. And I always say that any retrograde, especially Mercury retrograde, because everybody goes, oh, it's Mercury retrograde, oh no. But what I say is I'm thankful because I know what I'm going to be reviewing is really valuable. I needed to know it, and I didn't know it before. So this is the time, May 29th through June 22nd. Hold off on contracts, making any major decisions. If you make a decision, you start a new job, or if you move, you're probably going to move again, or something's going to change about that decision. If you make a decision to start a new job, something's going to change. I remember working, one of my clients years ago needed to take a job, and he took it on Mercury retrograde, and sure enough, the position changed. He got promoted. So I never say don't do something. Follow your own heart. If you need to, if it's a necessity, if it's urgent, then know that something's going to change about it. So with that said, I don't think, let me look here and just see, Mercury retrograde, Venus doesn't go retrograde till the end of the year. Oh, actually, Jupiter goes retrograde in June, but we're not going to talk about that right now. I'll talk about that in a future show. So I'm going to now talk about, pull an animal card for a message for all of the world, for all of humanity on this new moon. I love nature, and it is the most beautiful, beautiful thing. And Taurus is the sign that's associated with nature. And as you know, here on Earth, we're all going through incredible changes. This is a time, I said it on the Facebook post today, I said this is a time of extreme change on Earth, but it's also a time of magic. Because when something changes, something new takes its place. One door opens, one door closes, another one opens. So here's nature's message for you for this new moon in Taurus. And I got the kiwi. Do a walking meditation each day for the next week. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. That means that this is a time for us to contemplate things. And we were just talking about retrogrades. So taking a walk and thinking or meditation is very, very calming, especially with this Venus square Jupiter that's going on, and everybody's so much in fear of the political agendas and the things that are associated with our health that are going on with COVID and other things as well. Everybody, I think that's just a stressful time for relationships. And so when you have that kind of thing going on, the best thing to do is to get quiet and go into that place that feels peaceful. And because you're going to find peace, you're going to find, you're going to feel like you're being supported by life rather than challenged by life. And so I'm going to read you a little bit about the Kiwi further on this new moon, because this is a beautiful card. You can see that the Kiwi is looking down at the earth, and it's surrounded by purple and blue, which is a lot of emotion. But on the outside is green, so that means there's a lot of abundance if we can just look and see it. And if it's not coming from the outside world, it's coming from in here, and from our connection to God. And so here's the message that goes with that card. Most of the time, walking is a way that people get from point A to point B, often in a rush and without regard for what's going on around them. Meditation is typically viewed as something people do while sitting cross-legged for several minutes. However, that's only one form of meditation. Walking with awareness and intention is another. Find a place, preferably in nature, such as the forest or woods, where you can simply walk for 10 minutes or more each day for the next week. Experiment by walking more slowly than you usually do. Try moving at 80% of your usual speed. You can also try speeding up your pace, but stay present and be aware of how it feels to move so rapidly. Then slow way down for a few steps to where you can really feel each step you take. Notice how the contact with the ground starts at your heel and slowly moves up to your toes. If possible, try it barefoot. Be aware of the sights, sounds, and smells as you walk, as well as the rhythmic feeling in your body. Whatever pace you set, be sure to breathe consciously and consistently with full awareness. Doing so while walking is what makes it a meditation. And here's some association words: grounded, nocturnal, survival, flexibility, fatherhood, innocence, earthiness, ancient wisdom, inspiration, safety, speed, quickness, detection. And I know I start my day out with a meditation, and it varies depending on what's happening in my life. But it always takes me almost back to sleep. But it does really, it provides a really nice start to the day, along with a walking meditation with Bunny. So, my dog. Anyway, so I'm going to move on now to talk about the total lunar eclipse that's occurring on May 26th. And that is a Wednesday. And this is a huge, big deal. Total lunar eclipse. And it's the only one that we're having this year that is total, in its totality. That means that the Earth is going to block the light of the sun on the moon, and so we won't be able to see this full moon for a period of time. It's actually going to be about 14 minutes in duration. That's a very, very long eclipse. And throughout the years of studying astrology, I learned that the duration of an eclipse is equals a certain amount of years. So this would be like 14 years, that whatever this lunar eclipse is bringing to light, whatever's coming to fruition on this full moon, whatever's coming to completion, that's what full moons do. They bring full light, bring things to full awareness. And so whatever that is, whatever theme or whatever is surrounding that in your life is going to be actually manifesting over the next 14 years. That's a long time. So I'm going to talk about this very comprehensively today, about this total lunar eclipse. And I'm just going to hold the chart up for you to see. This is the lunar eclipse right here. It's at 5 degrees and 25 minutes of Sagittarius, and you can see it's next to the south node of the moon. And so that means that on an emotional level, there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to be emotionally influenced by that come from the past. Maybe there's something that's unfinished from the past. Maybe higher education, something in your education that's not complete. Or maybe there's something in your belief system that is under review for you. And so something from the past, it could be something you were taught as a child and said, this is what we believe. And so you were programmed that way. And now you're going, hey, what's my truth? What is it that I know? What is it that I believe in? That's Sagittarius. And it could also be that there's some changes that come up around far travel, meaning travel to different countries, foreign lands. And so that's going to be under the microscope. This is actually a very, very stressed lunar eclipse. And because it is actually squaring Jupiter, and it is also opposing the sun, as it always does on a full moon or lunar eclipse. So it feels like we're really stretched. And so the best way to deal with this is to take your time, because there's going to be a lot of mirrors with people that you meet in relationships and people that you relate to. You may not agree, and that's okay if you don't agree. But you're already, just in that connection, you're raising someone else's awareness to something that maybe they're uncomfortable with, and maybe this is a good thing. You know, it brings up an awareness of something beyond what they knew, or beyond what you knew. So, but there's always, I mean, oppositions are in mundane astrology are considered adverse, because it's something we can't control. We can't control what happens in the world around us, only how we react to those experiences. So know that this is a time where you're going to feel, you may feel some stress, but primarily the best possible reaction is no reaction. If you're not sure, or if you're feeling really stressed or anxious or uncertain, because Jupiter in Pisces can really magnetize, can really expand our, illusion and disillusionment. So I would say that there's a lot of healing that is also happening with people on Earth right now, because this full moon lunar eclipse is actually trining Chiron. And Chiron is, you can see it right here, it looks like a key. And it shows us where we have pain, where there's something that needs attention. And so when we pay attention to something that hurts, that's when it starts to get better. If we ignore it, it gets worse. So that trine is like an open door for us to discover keys that help us to heal, strategies or different ways. Maybe my friend did this and she's telling me about this. This is a gift. You know, I didn't know it before. So that's what trines are. There's, we've got the lunar eclipse, having a nice conversation with Chiron, the wounded healer. And so there's actually quite a bit going on with this lunar eclipse. A lot to talk about. Primarily, this lunar eclipse, you can see it over here in this part of the chart, is about health and well-being. It's about work and people's day-to-day work. The good news is that this is bringing change. And people are always nervous when change comes because they don't know what to expect, what's on the other end of this. So, this is going to bring up some level of nervousness, some level of uncertainty, but like that card, the Kiwi said, do a walking meditation, sit with things rather than react, and don't quit, because this is what we call a mutable T-square. And so when things get challenging, right away we want to do something else. Maybe it's about standing still rather than making a shift and changing really quickly, just standing with it rather than running from it. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this total lunar eclipse now. If you're a sky watcher, you can see this. It is going to be primarily, let me see here. It's going to be primarily over, let's see here. Primarily, hang on a second, I'll find it here. First of all, I'm going to talk about this, is that this lunar eclipse, full moon, is called a blood moon. And so it's also a supermoon, and the orbit of the moon around the Earth, is actually not circular. It's somewhat elliptical. And we have an eclipse when the moon and one of the nodes is right on the ecliptic. So when you look at like a globe of the Earth, the big globe, you can see that you can see the equator, which is around the center of the Earth, but the ecliptic is more like this type of elliptical kind of pattern. So whenever we have an eclipse, it's because one of those nodes is right beside the moon or the sun. So as I was talking about before, the south node is right next to this full moon lunar eclipse, and which means that it's very close to the Earth for some time and farther at other times. And if the moon phase happens to coincide with the time it's closest to Earth, then the moon is called a supermoon. And that's what we have. This is a supermoon, blood moon. And so a lunar eclipse can only happen on the night of a full moon. So as I said before, it's a full moon. And eclipses are also known to have predicted earthquakes. An earthquake of a magnitude of 6.7 Richters also occurred on February 9, 1971, in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains in Southern California. Then 15 hours later, a total lunar eclipse took place. So wherever an eclipse takes place over on Earth, that part of the Earth experiences incredible change. And eclipses are like wild cards. They bring the end of something and the start of something new. Now, the moon, lunar eclipse, we know the moon affects the ocean and the tides. So I'm going to talk about where this one is going to be occurring because it's important. So many people suggested that the alignment of the sun, the earth, and the moon was responsible for that earthquake. And it was believed that the sun and moon were pulling the earth in exactly opposite directions, just like you saw on the chart I just showed you on that day. And as a result, the earth is expanded into the shape of sort of like a rugby ball instead of a sphere. So the tidal and gravitational forces caused by the expansion may have triggered the earthquake. However, any relation to is highly inconclusive. But we do know that by studying the energy of the planets as an astrologer, or if you're an astronomer, we know that what happens around us in our solar system affects us. The moon is the closest body to us. And when it's exactly opposite the sun and stressed like it is that you saw to Jupiter, things are going to be magnified. And I'm not saying anything's going to happen. I'm just saying that that energy is really big on this eclipse. And I remember talking on the harmonic concordance up in Manchester, New Hampshire. We had a total lunar eclipse back in, I think it was 2003. And we all went outside and saw that total lunar eclipse. It was phenomenal to see, that happen, the whole process of it, and to be there present for it. And that was a beautiful, beautiful energy at that time. Very, very inspiring. There was some beautiful things going on in the astrology charts universally. So this is, my point is that this is an important event, one that we should consider and understand, and maybe even take a look at our birth charts and are, where is this lunar eclipse affecting you? Because what it's doing, whatever it's bringing to light, is going to come up every single full moon around the end of the month throughout the next 6 months. So it's really important. I would encourage you to look into that if you feel guided to do that. So the total lunar eclipse of May 26 will be visible in Australia, New Zealand, parts of the western United States, South America, or in Southeast Asia for, again, duration of 14 minutes. And it's totally safe to look at a lunar eclipse. It's unlike a solar eclipse, because the solar eclipse can really hurt your eyes, but a lunar eclipse is totally safe. So you could take a look at it, and it occurs, as I said earlier, at exactly, the total lunar eclipse occurs on May 26 at 7:14 a.m. in its totality. But it can be seen, again, Australia, New Zealand, parts of the western United States, western South America, or in Southeast Asia. And it's going to last for 14 minutes. So you'll be able to see it on YouTube, even if you're not in that location. We're going to talk in future show about the solar eclipse that's coming on June 10th. But right now I want to just talk a little bit more about this lunar eclipse, because the Sabian symbol, as you heard me talk about before for the new moon, for this lunar eclipse is a white dove flying straight and fearlessly over troubled waters. So this symbol implies a talent for bringing calm, protection, and good tidings to those who need help. Although there may be trouble all around, you're able to rise above this and find safe ground. You may have to cross over into the dark side in order to bring order and safety to people's lives. Even though you or someone else may be lost from sight for a while, and some may feel abandoned, they will return and bring guidance to safety and reassurance. You may need to send or receive a message to those who could be feeling left out and in need of reassurance. Transcending worry through spiritual awareness, prophetic mission, messages and symbols of peace, going for objectives, calming troubled minds, redemption and hope. And so the caution with the Sabian symbol is being too caught up in worries, not being able to accept that things are getting better or any form of solace, always dipping into dramatic situations. So I would encourage you with this lunar eclipse and the stress that it's showing to do whatever it takes to identify in your life all the really good things. It's very calming. It's very stabilizing to do that, because if you're in a negative situation and you're feeling the vibes that are associated with those experiences, and you're a mutable sign such as a Gemini or a Sagittarius or a Virgo or a Pisces, or have any planets in those signs, you're going to feel the negativity very deeply, because the mutable signs are like chameleons, very affected by their environment. So if you're Sag, if you're Gemini, if you're Virgo, or if you're Pisces, you're the mutable signs of the zodiac. So it's really important that you surround yourself with positivity the best that you can. There's, life brings us on journeys that we don't always choose, but how we react to it is the most important thing. So, and stay present, stay focused, stay grounded, do your walking meditation, and you're going to find that's very supportive through this time. And there are going to be, we always have usually 4 eclipses every year. And we do have 4 eclipses in 2021. And the first is the one I was just talking about. And so here's some notes I made about this eclipse. We talked about that the sun on a lunar eclipse is always opposite the moon, full moon. So the sun is reflecting light on the moon. So there's this strong tension that we become aware of. And oppositions are always about others, meaning their influence on us and our influence on them, what we learn from them, what they learn from us. But it also is a time of decision, because when you become aware of something, then you have more energy to make decisions. So we have the sun and the North Node together in Gemini, and Venus in Gemini. So, Gemini can be a very chatty, very nervous sign. One that's always moving, like, it's ruled by Mercury. And if you take Mercury and hold it on a plate, it never sits still. You move it a tiny bit and it's moving all over the place. So Gemini energy is like that. There's this nervous energy. Can't sit still. Got to be doing something. That's Gemini. I know, I'm a Gemini. So this lunar eclipse, because it's opposite the sun in Gemini, is going to bring up topics around belief systems, which is what I said earlier. Things around theology, international affairs, that's Sagittarius. And, a lot of chatter, a lot of talk. And we have, some fixed air in that chart, which is Saturn and Aquarius. And so we have some beautiful trines going on with Saturn and Aquarius. And at the same time, Jupiter's moved into Pisces. And that's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother show, because it's only going to go to 2 degrees of Pisces before it goes retrograde in June. So we'll talk more about that. It's like we're going to get a little taste of Jupiter and Pisces, which is beautiful. Really, really beautiful energy. It means that there's a lot of unconditional love that's surrounding all of us. So we're getting a little glimpse of that, but then we go back into the sign of Aquarius, so back to the drawing board to look over some things that we might have missed. So, so a lot of ideas are possible during this eclipse, because all that Gemini energy that's present, and that nice conversation with Saturn and Aquarius. Those are the intellectuals of the zodiac. So, and we also have the North Node in Gemini, which means that the direction we're meant to go in now is one that is all about the news, finding out what is the information, what's true, what's not. And I think that this lunar eclipse is going to shed light on some really important things that we don't know, because that's what lunar eclipses do. That's what full moons do. And this one's in the sign of Sagittarius, the truth teller, the truth sayer. And it's going to be pretty direct. So pull up your bootstraps on that one, because that one's going to be interesting to experience. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a animal card, Nature's Wisdom, on this lunar eclipse for everyone. And I'm actually being guided to pick 2 of them. So I'm going to pick one for the lunar eclipse. And I picked the cheetah. And the message from the cheetah is: get clear on your intention, stay focused, and move quickly to achieve your goals. And I'm going to give you some further information on that. And let's see here, the cheetah. Let's see, cheetah. Okay, so more information on the cheetah and Nature's Wisdom. Stop deluding yourself by thinking that there isn't enough time. There are too many other things to do, or you're not up to the mission that's calling you to action. These and many other beliefs are delay tactics that keep you from accomplishing what you're here to do. It's much too easy to play it safe by staying caught up in the mundane dramas of life, rather than honoring Spirit's purpose for you by making a run for it. The first step is to write out your intention as clearly as possible. Keep it nearby and create an appropriate affirmation that you can repeat several times over the course of the day. One that states your intention as if it has already occurred. Then write out a sequence of action steps that will help you move toward your ultimate goal. Don't be shy or hesitant to think bigger than you've previously allowed yourself. Once you've set the wheels in motion by doing these steps, it's time to move, not in some frenetic, hurried way, but steady and purposeful way, designing much of your activity to support what you need to do. And I think it's going to be hard to stay focused, with this energy of this lunar eclipse, because there's a lot of moving parts. One of my clients described mutable energy like this as like a kaleidoscope. You look into a kaleidoscope, and as you turn it, things change very quickly. And so it's a lot of moving parts, and that's what this eclipse is bringing, a lot of moving parts. But here's what I would recommend. If there's something that you would like to have more clarity on, this full moon lunar eclipse is going to bring that to you if you're open to receive it. If you're not, then it's going to take a little bit of time for that message to come. So if there's something that you're wanting to understand, if there's something that you're questionable about, is this the truth or not, this full moon lunar eclipse may shed light on that for you. And then, as I said earlier, this is a major marker around changes in how we relate to life and how life is relating to us, so to speak. So this is a great time for writing down those intentions, writing down those things that you want to know more about, and then just letting it go to the universe or to God or whatever that looks like to you, because you're going to get answers. That's what full moons do. They bring answers. And this is going to be an interesting journey with this lunar eclipse, because it's like a full moon magnetized or magnified 6 times. And that's powerful. I'm going to hide under my bed when the full moons, because no, I'm not. I'm just kidding. But I'm just saying that I feel the energy very, very much from the moon and from the weather, and as most people do. We're all getting more and more sensitive. And the one thing about Sagittarius is belief. Your beliefs, just believe in something, at least something, other than, this mundane walk on this earth, because it gives you something to grasp and hold on to, and we all need that. And that's Sagittarius. It's the believer. It's the optimistic one. It's the one that's willing to search and shoot the arrow into a direction that's different than where they were, to discover new territory, new places. And, I think that one of the things that we're going to see with this lunar eclipse is that people are going to start moving to different countries. That's already happening. Leaving the United States because they don't feel safe here. That may be one of the things that becomes becomes really magnified over the next 6 months. And the borders open up. This is the end of something and the start of something new. So that may very well be a very real thing that becomes very, very big, very magnified for everybody. Not everybody, but certain people that don't believe in the way things are here. So that is a strong possibility. So once you've set the wheels in motion by doing these steps, it's time to move. Oh, we already talked about that one. In all this movement, once you've successfully achieved a significant piece, take a breather and look back on how far you've come. Give yourself a pat on the back with each step that's accomplished as a way of acknowledging your progress. So go for it. And here's some words of association with this lunar eclipse: speed, focus, insight, passion, swiftness, elusiveness, flexibility, efficiency, self-esteem, powerful, graceful, purposeful, energetic, sensuous, accomplishment, directness. And I'm going to add just a couple more things about Sagittarius. It's one of the fire signs of the zodiac, and so that means that there's a spark of spirit that's associated with this, courage. And there's also a Sagittarius is one of the fire signs, we call them the executives of the zodiac, meaning that they're the pioneers. They're the fearless ones. They're, willing to go out and discover new things. So my recommendation on this full moon lunar eclipse is to allow yourself to go out and discover something new. Go look at something different, study something different. Maybe go and check out a church that is different than the belief that you were brought up with. You might discover that aligns with you more than the religion that you were taught as a child, or the beliefs you were taught as a child. So that's really exciting, and it's inspiring. And so, if you stay in the same place, you'll never discover what's in front of you. You'll never discover something new. So, everyone, thank you for tuning in to Turn to the Stars. And I want to just add one more thing. With Jupiter moving into Pisces, our level of intuition, insight, our psychic abilities, our feelings and our emotions are going to become even more expanded. Our sensitivity is going to become more expanded. So if there's something that you can study that supports you in aligning with those feelings, working with those feelings, it's going to be really helpful. So I wanted to add that. And one other thing I wanted to add was that on the front page of my website now you can create your birth chart. So if you go to turntothestars.com and click on create birth chart, I believe that's what it says. You could put in your month, your day, your date of birth, your year of birth, your time of birth, your city and state of birth, and you can push on create the chart and you've got your birth chart. So if you know how to look at that chart, at least to identify the zodiac signs and where 5 degrees of Sagittarius is, you're going to know where this lunar eclipse is in your chart. And if you need help with that, I am available. You can contact me through Turn to the Stars or by phone or whatever method works for you. So everyone, thanks for tuning in to Turn to the Stars. And remember, turn to the stars and you'll find your answers there. Take good care.